Welcome everyone, Sir HeroScape here today, coming at you with a different kind of video today. It's not too often that I do this, but I feel that something has to be said. I want to preface this video by simply stating, if you don't want to hear soapbox ramblings and opinions, by all means, sign off. If you want to listen in, put me on audio and go do something while you listen, that's probably the best way to consume this. I will be talking from my soapbox, from my opinions, from my feelings of HeroScape as it currently stands in the current meta and the lifeblood of HeroScape and how it's doing under the direction of Renegade. Or rather, under the management of Renegade. Renegade didn't ask me to do this video, but under the management of Renegade. This video is entirely decided to be presented by me. And I would suggest that any Renegade people watch it and take to heart the thoughts and feelings that I have, because I do think that I'm not the only one feeling this way. Plenty of people have shared comments and thoughts, and so I'm going to be covering a number of different items throughout this video today that are going to touch on some concerns that I have, some necessary criticism, and I think feedback for Renegade as it stands currently in HeroScape. That said, with criticism and with feedback and with soapboxing, I think it's important to always point out the positive and to try to keep it positive, meaning look at the scenario, talk about what's going well, talk about what's not going well, and then offer solutions. So to preface this video, I'm going to start by, going ahead and talking about the game and what I think is going well, what I think Renegade is doing well. I'm going to talk about a lot of my concerns, which is going to be the bulk of the video, and some of my feedback and just current state of things in HeroScape, a number of different things. And then talk about some solutions. There's not an answer for everything. I'm not working at Renegade. I'm not an expert in the toy industry, so there's a lot of things that I don't know, admittedly. But as a consumer and as a prominent, HeroScape voice, I feel like, it's important to share those thoughts and feelings and hopefully to be heard. So that's the preface of this video. If that interests you and you want to hear more, by all means continue. Otherwise, skip to the end and show that you watch the video. But yeah, so stick around. Let's jump into it. First off, I do want to start off by, really pointing out the positives of what I think is going well in HeroScape and specifically with Renegade. From the very beginning of Renegade taking over and experiencing my first Gen Con 2 years ago, I was just floored at how well Renegade has marketed this product. You'll remember that early on when Renegade took over, they were doing, they had playthrough videos of some very prominent voices. For example, Matt Mercer, who is literally like the top dog in D&D right now, and with Critical Role and all those things. I mean, that video is still just blew up, right? And so getting the voice out or getting the word out, so to speak, across the globe and across the hobby area, it was incredible and continues to be. Like, HeroScape is being marketed really, really well. And I think that is huge. It's massive. That's the only way that this game stays alive, is making sales. And sales starts with marketing, getting the word out, getting people excited, getting prominent voices to share it. So marketing has always been just really impressive for me. Additionally, I think that the organized play is something that I never expected, and honestly, no one ever asked for. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm just saying that as HeroScapers, we just wanted our plastic toys back, right? When HeroScape was re-announced, that's all that we cared about, was getting our plastic toys back. So the fact that Renegade brought with that a organized play component, a structured, monthly scenarios, and, empowering game stores to run events, but also to run specific events, right? To have regional store and regional events, store championships, trial Valkyrie trials, all those organized play specific events and just the organization and prizing is kind of incredible. That takes an immense amount of work and coordination. It's a ton of lift from the team to manage that and manage, people like the wardens that are participating in that effort to really try and keep their local areas active, and honestly the willingness to send product. Obviously some of that product is still having to be purchased, but purchased at a reasonable price. I think it was like, I don't know, it was like $40 for a pack of like 9 promo figures or something. Which is a great deal when you consider that, a lot of those promo figures on the website for a normal person to buy are like $20, right? So they do really try to make it affordable and useful and exciting for the people running events in those areas. My point is that providing those options and those opportunities has always been a good, positive thing, in my opinion, that a game store manager can go in, see that, hey, there's a more organized game pack kit that I can purchase. I can give them out to my locals, and we can hold this event, and it's promoted, and Renegade is helping run these things from from the top down a little bit. But they give the freedom to the tournament organizers and the game store owners to do that. So I think there's a lot of really cool things about that. On that same vein regarding promos, it's kind of amazing that, some for a miniature, a plastic miniature that's, highly painted, you get for free for a lot of these products or purchases. So like if you're purchasing, even just a small, one army pack, getting a free promo figure is pretty great. I mean, there's lost cost there, so to speak, to the company, because it's a free miniature that they're providing to people purchasing. Now, free miniatures incentivize more purchasing, right? And so there is an element of, it's lost cost, but it also incentivizes people to buy more. So maybe at the end of the day, you get profit. But in reality, like you're not paying for that miniature that you're getting, right? And again, that's something that no one ever asked for, but I think is another amazing thing that Renegade does, is that they offer promotional figures free of charge whenever you purchase something off their website, which, is something that you don't get when you're purchasing off third-party websites or even local stores. I don't think local stores have those as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, I think there's a lot that has to be said there. Experiences at Gen Con, they, have a massive booth. They have a massive outreach. There's, I've talked about my experience at Gen Con, and so I won't go into detail there. There's definitely areas there that can be improved, and definitely good things that are happening there as well. So we'll move on from that and start going into some of the more soapboxy concerns and ideas or thoughts that I've been mulling over. A lot of these have been kind of sticking around for a little while, haven't been kind of a big issue in my mind for the most part, really until Renegade Con this last week. I've spent, the last few days really just thinking about these things, how I felt during Renegade Con. And it was the first Renegade Con where I was extremely excited about the announcements, I was extremely excited about the units, but I just had this this pit in my stomach. This feeling of, I wouldn't say it's dread, I wouldn't say it's anger, it was just more of like this, it's like kind of disappointed, and as I kind of investigated why I was feeling that way, I just started looking at, again, a number of different things, and I want to talk about those. So walk with me here on this journey as I kind of work through some of this. First off, the most obvious one is price point. Renegade, it makes me extremely disappointed to see the prices where they are. Back when we first introduced common squads, so actually, first off, all the unique packs, it was kind of like, okay, from the very beginning, I was like, you know what? It's a little bit high. That said, these are unique packs. Everyone's buying them once. That's fine. I can manage to buy once for that price. They said they're premium painted. I'll trust that. And, at the end of the day, I'm getting product, right? I have always said from the beginning, though, Renegade, these prices, again, for uniques are okay. I'm willing to swallow it. But as soon as you bring commons out, you can't do this. Commons have to be cheaper. They have to be. They absolutely have to be cheaper. By nature of production, there is no argument to that. When you produce more of something, you can offer it at a cheaper price. And that's just not the case. Sure, it's cheaper than the master set, or cheaper than an expansion, like a battle box or whatever. But the army packs are running, the common squad army packs are running the same as the unique packs, or very close to it. And that's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. There's no reason for it. Unique packs, you have to produce less because people are only ever going to buy one. Common packs, you have to produce like 10x, like legitimately. I don't know what that multiplier is, but I would talk to the production guys, manufacturing guys, and I would say, what's your actual production of these units? Because there's no reason they should be the same price. Commons should always be cheaper than uniques. I don't care what your argument is. I'm sorry. But at a base level, if I have more of something, it should be charged less. There's more. If there's an exuberant amount of something, then the price is cheaper. That's market, right? That's just how the market works, right? That's how, or that's how it should work. So the fact that it's not working that way is leading me to believe that either they weren't producing the numbers that are common figures, at a multiplier of uniques, or they're just trying to make an extra buck, and I'm not sure which. Or the price is so high on pre-painted that, maybe there's something there. But then you would see a difference in the unpainted versus pre-painted. So the price is an issue. Now, that was when commons were first introduced at the $55 mark. And I had issues. Then we have the tariff situation. Now, understandable. I said, you know what? They're eating a lot of the cost. They've communicated that in emails. They said, hey, we got to bring this up to 60 for common packs. From 55 to 60, we know this is a big deal. We're so sorry. This has to be done, right? And that was in May. That was May 1st. May 1st, take this timeline with me. They said, hey, full transparency, get your product now. We're going to raise the price by $5. Fast forward 5 months later, October 3rd, they raised the price by $10. Who did they tell? Nobody. Not a single email, not a single notification, not a single, hey, we did raise the price by $5 5 months ago, and we were super transparent. We super told you why we're doing that. Also, we're raising it by $10 this time, and we're not telling you. That's an issue. Now, no company is required to tell us by any means. They're not held by any contract or requirement to tell us anything. They don't need to tell us about potential issues with their sales, or maybe who knows, maybe their shipment sunk in the sea, right? And so now they have to make that money back. Maybe the manufacturer burned down, and so, they don't have them as a product, and there's lost cost somewhere, right? They don't have to tell us any of that stuff that's going on. I agree. But all it could require, but at the same time, then you're going to have a lot of really pissed off people, such as myself, that say, why is that $70 now for a common pack? 5 months ago, it was $55. We ate the increase of $5 because of tariffs, but now you're increasing it by another $10? $10? Now, for those of you that aren't very good at math, let's just take this really quick and do some quick math. That's a 27% increase in cost over 5 months. 27% more. I'm paying for a common pack 27% more 5 months after the original price was raised. What the heck is going on? Like, what is going on, Renegade? Why? Why is that happening? Explain yourself. I'm completely honest about that. If you don't, that's fine, but you're going to have a lot of angry people and a lot of people that's going to find really difficult to support you because it's hard to come up with $70 for 5 painted figures. Please think about that. 5 painted figures for $70. $70. Okay? Now, let's take a step back, take a deep breath. The reason for this was tariffs originally. Now, that was at a time when tariffs were insane, astronomical, right? It was 145% tariff on incoming product from China, right? That's massive. Massive. At that time, there wasn't a trade deal. It was tariff war, right? And it was 125% the other way, right? For product going into China. So anything that Renegade's sending to China, that's 125% tariffed. Everything that comes back, 145% tariffed. So quick math tells me that's 270% total of a tariff. 145, 125, yeah. Check me on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, say Renegade's not sending any product over and we're only receiving it from China. Okay, fine, 145%. We'll take that. I checked the trade deal that was dealt that between, again, I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician. All I did is look up what was the trade deal, because I know there was a trade deal. The tariffs went down to 34%. So now it went from 145 to 34%. Renegade knows this. Of course they know this. So when the tariffs go down from 145 to 34%, that's a reduction of 77%. So now 34% is still not easy to deal with. That's, difficult for any company to manage the books with. But it's 77% lower than it was when the trade war was going on. So while the tariffs, the reason why the price was increased, while the tariffs are plummeting 77% because of the trade deal, the price is being raised 27%. So what gives? The tariffs was the reason the price went up. But now the tariffs go down by 77%. But then the price goes up by 27%? Why? Why? It begs the question why. And so again, I have to clarify my opinions and my soapbox by saying I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician, I don't know Renegade's books. Again, did a ship sink, did something burn out? I don't know. But why is still a valid question when we see these numbers as a consumer. And that's why it pains me, because I was looking at the prices and I'm like, commons, a normal competitive player is going to buy 4 to 5 squads minimum if you want to be competitive in most formats. Minimum. And even if you're not trying to be competitive, if you're just a collector and you want a big old army of HeroScape, which is how HeroScape has always been played, you're going to buy 4 to 5 squads, sometimes 6. I've bought times 6 of every squad so far. That's a common coming out. And I looked at this last time and I just said, oh my gosh. I was like, I myself, who have invested time, money, effort for so long, I have had the opportunity to be, part of this, HeroScape amazing thing. Even I am looking at this like, I don't know if I can afford buying 6 squads of everything. Like, what is going on here? So I'm really, really confused why that's the case. And I just think more needs to be said and be transparent from Renegade. And honestly, something has to change. Now, maybe Renegade's fine financially and they're like, yeah, we got to fix that. Or maybe they're not, and this is how they have to make the money. I don't know. All I'm saying is, it as a consumer, I view this as something that is a problem. That has to change. If you're producing commons at a multiplier of the uniques, which it should be, then there's no reason they should be the same price. They should be cheaper. If they're going to be cheaper, then why are you raising the price by $15, an increase of 27%, when the tariffs, the reason you increased it, are going down? Now, notably, the current trade agreement between the US and China is technically expiring on November 10th, which is a month away. Because of that, maybe this is, preparing for that eventuality, that maybe something crazy is going to happen. So they're trying to, prepare for that. Maybe the tariff war happens again, maybe not. Maybe a better deal is struck, maybe the same deal is struck, we don't know. So if Renegade's preparing for that, fine, okay. Again, maybe be transparent, talk to us about it and say, hey, the tariff deal's up in November. We're going to go ahead and increase prices again in the event that it, becomes a problem again. But tell us it's temporary. Say, hey, we don't want this, but if tariffs go back down, we're going to cut this back down to the original prices. Share that with us. Let us know. Because you can't have a game with new product being produced at the same or more than the original product from 20 years ago. And that's also what I want to point out. It's becoming so bad that I'm looking at original HeroScape. Someone can get into the game cheaper going to the old product now for a lot of the stuff, which is really, really sad for me to say. Of course, some of that stuff is still collector's item exclusive, way astronomically high. But if you go at some of the more common packs that are, still decent armies, you can build your own army cheaper than the currently produced HeroScape. Just about. If I go onto eBay, heck, not even eBay, if I go to the highest price location, all things HeroScape, I can still find 4th Mass and 10th Reg, which on their own are a great army. Buy 4 or 5 squads of those, you've got your army. I can still buy those at All Things HeroScape, which is usually 30 to 40% above market value. I can still buy squads there for about the same price per figure as Renegade right now. Doesn't that just make you want to throw up in your mouth a little bit? For everyone out there, All Things HeroScape has been a thorn in our side because the prices are astronomical. He kind of sets the market value, which is really unfortunate. But they're 30 to 40% above what it really should be. It's been inflated so high over so long that it becomes a problem. But now if you go to eBay or your normal markets for the HeroScape product, the old stuff, you can buy it pretty decent. And so now, mind you, what I'm saying isn't true for every product, right? There's going to be new stuff coming out. Right now, Renegade's Takala Jungle, you can get it on Amazon for $25. First of all, that's unmatched. That's amazing. That's cool. So kudos to that, awesome. You can get the battle boxes unpainted for $30 or $40 on Amazon. Awesome. Great. Awesome. So again, it's not true for everything, but when you're releasing new stuff, then you're saying, hey, pre-order now. And that new stuff, that exciting stuff, is coming at an astronomical number, almost the same as the old stuff that's 20 years old and an artifact, a collector's item. That's when you have problems. So that's where I'm at. I have a problem and concerns. And I think Renegade needs to address that in some fashion. That's, we need to hear from you. Tell us it's not going to last. Tell us it's going to come down. Tell us that it's only because of tariffs and it's going to come down. Or tell us that, you have to do this for a year because something happened. I don't know. But you can't keep common packs going at this rate. It just can't happen. Because then you're going to find people like myself saying, you know what? It's not worth it. Or I can't afford it right now. And I want to now talk about why this compounds a continued issue. So let's talk about the impacts of the price, because then it compounds across a few different other issues that I have. So let's just assume I'm willing to, bite the bullet. I have the money. I have the support. I'm going to be buying the HeroScape, which honestly, at the end of the day, I'm still going to try and do is be a part of the community, support the game, buy the HeroScape. But naturally, I'm going to start now looking at, well, am I getting the best value? And how am I getting that value? Now, this was always in the back of my mind before, but the price point was okay enough that I wasn't too worried about it. But now with the price point being so high, now I have to think about, okay, well, how many packs do I actually want to buy? And if I'm buying this pack, how much value I'm actually getting out of this pack? Meaning, how useful is this to me, competitively, playing games, army building? And this is where I started realizing there's some inherent problems with how they've packaged a lot of the things that they're doing. To units, to the price point, to the actual points of the units that they're releasing. So I'm gonna use some very real examples of the figures right now that they just released in this last Renegade Con. First off, the elites and the Rannoch Vipers or whatever. This is a massive issue, in my opinion. You have me looking at this design and saying, okay, you know what? I've got a common pack of, 3 Kiri warriors. Now these Kiri warriors are, 105 points each, so in a competitive format, they're not meant to be very many, right? You can't run very many. You just can't, right? If they're meant to be designed to be played with other Ular Kiri, like Ziamara and Mielki and whoever else they're going to design, you just can't run many of them. They have to stand on their own and be able to manage themselves with 2 or 3 squads. Now it just so happens that you can get 3 squads plus Ziamara plus Mielki for 495 points. That means that in a standard format that fluctuates around that 500 point mark, that's going to be your army core, right? So if I'm thinking about it, I'm going to say, well, I don't need more than 3. I could use 4 or 5 if I just wanted to, have the extras or whatever. But the army core that's going to make sense is having 3 squads. Well, the problem is you've paired a 105 point squad, common squad, with a 50 point squad. You see why that's a problem? Because for anyone that's ever played HeroScape, anyone that's ever, participated in any type of, format where you can swarm squads, if I can get double the amount of squad figures from some other squad versus one squad, odds are pretty good that's the better option. Not guaranteed, but if I can get 2 squads of Rannochs, like in terms of army building, for instead of just 1 squad of the elites, odds are pretty good that might be a better choice. Or maybe I just want to have a lot of fun and be like, you know what, man, these guys are 50 points. Boom, let's get like 7 squads of these guys. I don't know about you, but I've never had so much fun in HeroScape when I've run 7 times Renegade Vipers. 0 defense, 7 move, frenzy all over the place, but you have 7 squads of them, right? They're 21 figures, but they're only 40 points a pop, so you only spent 7 times 4, 200, what is that, 280? Yeah, 280 points. You spent 280 points on 7 squads, right? That's crazy. But it's so fun, right? Same thing with the Armox. Armox are 65 points, but still decently cheap. But you can still run 4 or 5 squads plus a hero and just run around the board like crazy. So Vipers have always been fun to just throw on the battlefield. And now we've got another mobile but ranged unit, the Rannoch Vipers, for 50 points. So you could drop in 5, 6, 7 squads of these guys. At 7 squads, you could do 350 points. That's nothing. That's nothing. You could do 7 squads, throw in a 100-point hero, 150-point hero. Boom, you've got your army, and it's going to be running around the battlefield, sniping stuff, hypnotizing stuff, having fun. How do you get 7 squads of Rannochs? You have to buy 7 army packs and have 7 squads of elites as well. And unfortunately, elites are 105 points. So you're never going to be running 7 squads of elites in anything. So the only way you can truly make that happen is buy 7 packs and then resell a bunch of the elites. And hope that you can get some of that money back, and you only really need 3. So you're selling 4 squads or 3 squads or whatever it is. Or maybe you decide to keep 5 and you sell 2. But you see what I'm saying? The packaging is a problem. How you package those units. Because now I'm saying, if it was $55 for a pack, I'd be like, okay, it's fine. I'm getting 6 figures. It's not too bad. I'll eat the cost. It seems fine. But now that it's $70 for expansion, I'm sitting here thinking, well, shoot, you're making me pay $70 when I want to buy a bunch of Rainox and I'm incentivized not to buy very many elites. But you're telling me I have to buy them both in the same pack. What the heck? The thing about the lava crabs and that expansion and the others was they were the same price point. Lava crabs and the Tanukis, both 45 points. Then you had the undead revenant acolytes of Revna, and then you had the undead dog, both 40 points. So it made a lot of sense. It was like they're interchangeable, right? So if you wanted to do one versus the other, okay, sure, right? It made sense. Now, obviously, sometimes one's going to be more competitive than the other, but in terms of army building, they're the same. So you run into an issue, right, where you're going to find that it's going to be really difficult to sell this to people because the people want 7 squads of Rainox, but they can't afford 7 squads, and so they're only going to buy 3 because they don't want any more, and then they're going to have to hope that someone else bought a bunch and can sell them the other. You know what I mean? It becomes a problem. So that same thing exists with something like the Grut pack. I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, so I get a 5-figure pack. I get 4 Gruts and a big old Grut hero, common hero. Well, the common hero is 35 points. Well, okay, I can run 4 squads of Gruts. That's going to be 300 points. I could run 5 squads and be 375, whatever. So I could throw in a bunch of those army ramhead guys. But what happens if I have my classic Heroescape? What happens when they design new unique orcs? Then I'm going to want those new unique orcs, or, like Grimnak, 160, or Narak, 50 points, or, just other champions that are created. Or because they bond with Vorids, say I want to throw in Decker at 65, or I want to run, Imperator Kane at 130. Right? Or the other guy, the blimp guy at 140, right? These are all heroes that bond with the Gruts. Well, all of a sudden, I can only get maybe 1 of the common hero ramhead guys, maybe 2 at best. And so if I'm buying 4 or 5 squads of the Gruts, but I'm also getting a bunch of the ramhead guys, then I've got a bunch of sitting common heroes that aren't doing anything. And so you had another pack, Nuclevy, is going to be the same issue. And then you have, right now, we just had the pack, the Revenant Acolytes of Revna. Same thing. Guess what? The Gilry, same thing. When you run the Gilry Warriors, the Gilry squad, you're going to want to run 4 or 5 squads of that. Well, guess what? The Krakenling's 85 points. So the most you're going to be able to get in a competitive army is 2 of those things. So now you're sitting with 3 or 4 extras, and you're like, well, what do I do with that? Now, of course, you can resell that, but that's not ideal, right? That's not great feeling to be like, well, I have to resell this now. And so I just don't think the current packaging, the way that they're putting these things together to sell, is making sense. Now, thematically, sure, it makes sense to have a Krakenling with the Gilry, but it just, as a consumer, as someone trying to buy stuff for the value, it's very difficult because, again, at $55, $60 a pack, I was okay looking past that. I was okay being like, it's fine. Like, the price point's still good. I'm fine. At 70 now, I'm just like, okay, well, if you're asking me 70, now I really need good value for what I'm getting. And so if I'm getting something that I feel like I'm going to have to go resell because I'm never going to be able to use it because I've got 5 of these, Krakenlings, I'm like, I'm only going to ever need 2. Well, what the heck? That's not good business. You see what I'm saying? So like that's where it's I'm diving deeper into the nitty gritty because of the price point. That's how the price point has started to affect these other things. I didn't have these issues before until I started realizing, well, now that the price is so high, I want the best value for my buck, right? Now you should always feel that way, of course, but I felt like $55 for the common pack was fine, and 60 I was willing to eat that for the tariff thing. Not so anymore. Not the case. So now I'm looking at Renegade and I'm saying, okay, you gotta fix this if you're going to be asking this much money. You got to make it worth it. Keep common packs together on their own. If you're going to package common squads, package common squads all together. If you're going to have 2 common squads together, fine, but make them common squads so I get 4 of those. If you're going to make them common squads packaged together like you did the Elites and the Ranax, fine, but make them at least similar, the same price point, so that I don't feel like I need only 3 Elites, but I want 6 or 7 Rainox. That doesn't make any sense. And so that's just a huge frustration point. And so, but then the one shining star of this is I look at the Isonex squad, and I'm like, that's perfect. That's literally perfect. You guys gave us 2 squads in 1 pack. I couldn't ask for more. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, what could be better? Like that makes so much sense to me, because now I'm saying, you know what? I get 6 figures. I get 1 pack. That equals 2 squads. I buy 3, 4, 5 packs of that. That's like 10 squads. I don't need 10 squads. I really only need to buy 2 or 3 packs of it, because then that gets me anywhere between 4 and 6 squads. And then if, say, I only ever want 5, okay, well, I can use those for the common heroes in that particular design. That works, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say is I think you have to get away from some of these packaging ideas and relook at how and be a little bit more meticulous about how you're packaging. Common heroes probably just need to be on their own, right? If you're going to do common heroes, do them in their own pack, literally like a pack of uniques, a pack of common heroes, and then a pack of common squads. But you also have to know the price points of all those on their card and how competitive an army built around those are going to be. Because then if one of those common heroes is going to be super useful or really cheap versus really expensive on another one, then you're going to have issues. And so you have to think about what actually makes sense. Maybe you do little individual boxes of common heroes. I mean, gosh, we have promo figures. We have the Deflectocron, which is a common hero as a promo figure. Why can't you just make that a sellable option across the board, right? I mean, if you make little packs and you just make 1 common hero, boom, in a little pack, I can buy 1, I can buy 2, I can buy 3, great. You know, for $5-10, whatever it is, make them solo purchases. Make it easy on people to buy what they need, right? Or, you know, for the gruts, the chain gruts, instead of 1 squad in an army pack, do 2 squads. Or if you're not going to do 2 squads, do 1 squad, but then drop that price down. Make it $40, make it $45 for 1 squad. Fine. But find a way to make it more consumable to us. Make us want to buy what we need. Don't make us buy so much to have extras that just sit around doing nothing. Does that make sense? Anyway, what that does is that also creates other issues down the road in terms of the meta. So I want to talk about this because as a competitive player, this is just a feeling I get. I don't know if others feel the same way. This is something I've been feeling. But I think we're at a pretty high saturation point for the HeroScape meta when it comes to contemporary. I look at Renegade and I say, you know what, I appreciate the grind, the jump out, get stuff out as quickly as possible, get a bunch of units out, get people excited about it, establish a meta, establish a bunch of uniques, common packs, terrain packs, unique packs, master sets, establish just a full set of designs and gosh, G.I. Joe, a fun little expansion, that's an IP expansion. There's so much that they're doing that's, push, get out, get product out. I think it's becoming a bit much. And that's not to say I don't appreciate it. I think as HeroScape, how could we ask for less, right? That's the question I'm asking myself. How could we ask for less? But in a way, I think it's important maybe to ask for less and slow down. For example, what I mean by that is, commons were introduced. We had the lava crabs and the tanukis, boom, released. And I picked my first ones up at Gen Con. What are we looking at? 2 months ago, right? 3 months ago? End of July? No, end of July, early August. 2 months ago. 2 months ago. I was at Gen Con with the new stuff, right? The new kids on the block, right? The tanukis and the lava crabs, right? Those are obsolete. In contemporary, they are worthless. They cannot be played. They will not win games anymore. Turns out, they won the championship. They won the world championship at Gen Con this year. The tanukis, anyway. I hardly saw any of the lava crabs. They were played very little. Unfortunately, they're just not very competitive. And so they've had a really tough time. But then you have the tanukis, which are completely obsolete after just winning the world championship. And what I mean by that is they just don't measure up to the new designs. Now, they're still good. They're still fun. But I just bought those. I just got those 2 months ago. And already, the hundreds of dollars I spent on those packs, if I'm competitively trying to win games and going out into the community to participate in events and whatnot, I can't be bringing those. They will not win me games. Not in a competitive setting. Now, of course, at home, I can still have fun with a bunch of tanukis running around and lava crabs being on lava maps. Like, yeah. And there's definitely something said about that there's still going to be something for everyone. People can play those at their homes. But if you're trying to get people in the game stores to have game nights and have events and participate and keep up with the new stuff and win games and have fun winning games, then giving time for the meta to establish itself, I think, is important. Now, again, we're still in the very early stages of just a year and a half, 2 years of competitive HeroScape, not even really, and there's tons of new units. So, I mean, you're basically infusing just a ton of stuff into the meta that's got to figure its way out. So, I think maybe over the course of the next 6 months to a year, maybe we'll see a little bit more of a balance. That said, I don't see any plans to slow down. And what I mean by that is, we're literally getting stuff announced and released like every 4 months. New product. Now, that's hard to keep up with. That's hard for me to keep up with, let alone the average Joe just trying to play the game and just trying to, buy some stuff that'll win him games and have fun with. Right now, we're going to get new product in the next few months, which is, I just got new product, right? That's the Gilry and all, great bows and whatnot. And so it's going to take time for those to kind of work their way through the meta. But very soon here, coming on early next year, we're going to have more new product, the G.I. Joe stuff. And that's going to make a shift in the meta. And then after that, we're going to get more new stuff. Again, all to be excited about. And I am excited about it. But my concern is that you're saturating too much into the player base and saying, hey, here's more, here's more, here's more, here's more, here's more. And what that does to a player is that feels like they can't catch up. That feels, to someone like me who's competitive, it feels like I'm trying to continue to buy all the new stuff because I want to participate in all the excitement and all the new stuff and get those armies out and give you guys content and provide and all this stuff. But for the average player, it just feels unmanageable. It just feels like, hey, I just bought my Tanukis 4 months ago. I saved up for 4 months. I just bought 4 squads. And I was told this won the world championship. And now I show up and you guys have all the new stuff that was 2 months ago. It's so fast and so much that I fear that over time you're going to start losing people because they're going to feel like they can't play with their toys. They're going to feel like they got their stuff. They painted them. They got excited. It's all the new stuff. But then it's already obsolete. It's already the old stuff, right? Or even if it is new, it's just not competitive. It's just not good enough. And so I feel like the meta may suffer because of that. I feel like there's definitely maybe just a little too much all at once type of thing. And I hate to say that because I think, gosh, man, HeroScape's back. We've got, product out our ears coming nonstop, but there is too much of a good thing. And I think maybe a little bit more time between HeroScape releases would give more time to play testing, to balancing units. Maybe it'd give more time to the meta to just kind of mellow out and kind of figure out, hey, how do units work and what's good, what's not. It would give more time to people to save up and buy the new product. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to experience. It's a lot to just process because I don't necessarily agree with that point myself, but there's validity to it, meaning I want more HeroScape. Of course I want more product. Of course I want to get excited about new stuff. But in the same breath, I just get that feeling like, man, if I feel like it's hard to keep up, if I feel like all of a sudden the Tanukis I spent $400 on are now obsolete, what's the random Joe feeling, right? That's just trying to buy something that he can play with at a game store and win some games with. And so that's my fear, is I fear that the meta is being too saturated with just so many new units so quickly. And so I think over the next year, I just feel like people may have a really hard time keeping up. That's all I gotta say. So, that's where I'm at. Here we are, 45 minutes later. I told you it was a soapbox. If you managed to stay through and listen, by all means, congratulations. This is a little bit of a long form format that I myself don't tend to usually do. I try to keep things a little bit more condensed and manageable, but these are just thoughts and feelings I've been having lately that I feel like need to be said. And I'm curious, I'm curious your thoughts. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me if you feel the same. Tell me if I'm out on an island. Agree with me, disagree with me. If I said something incorrect, correct it, please. Or if you disagree with me, I would love to hear your perspective, because maybe I'm out in left field and maybe there's more perspective that I'm missing, right? If you agree with me, I'd love to hear points that you agree with, and kind of how you're feeling. If you're one of those average Joes, or if you're super involved, if you're going to your events, if you're purchasing, how are you feeling about the game? But I'll end with this. I think Renegade, TLDR summary, Renegade, something has to be done about the price. It's not sustainable. You can't keep commons at $70 a box. You can't be done. It won't, if you're going to do it, fine. I really, really hope the game continues and is sustained, but you're going to have a lot of people having issues. And you're going to price out people very quickly, in my opinion. There's a lot of people just are not going to be able to afford paying that steep price when some of the original HeroScape is now cheaper. Look at the price point, Renegade. Second thing, find a better way to package your units. You got to find a better way. You can't be packaging common squads with common heroes. You're going to have people sitting with 3, 4, 5 extra common heroes. Package multiple common squads together, or do solo common squad packs, but make the price lower. Have common heroes in their own pack, or have a pack of common heroes. Whatever it is you decide, come up with a different solution to try and see how that pans out. You don't, just because you've done something one way doesn't mean you always have to do it that way. You've established an army pack template that you've essentially done so far. You've either packaged a common squad with a common hero or a couple common squads together. Fine. Please revisit that. Find maybe a different way that you can do it to make it a little bit more manageable for people to buy what they want, and so they don't feel like they've got extras. And then think about the meta. Think about what's the impact that the units that you're designing and shipping out into the field are going to have on the meta, and kind of the purchasing power of what that means, especially at the clip that we're doing. I mean, we're infusing so many units so quickly that, again, a lot of people that are just now getting their Tanukis or their, lava crabs, or just now getting their, XYZ unit, whatever that is, are going to feel like it's obsolete, because competitively, those units are not going to win games anymore. At the highest level, right? When we're going to tournaments, local tournaments and stuff. Now, again, at home, sure, you're fine, but I think you have to be thinking about the people that are trying to go to their local game store and find a buddy to play with, or come to a tournament, or they heard about it and they saw it at the game store and they pull it off the shelf and they want an army pack, or they say, hey, I want to play with this. You want them to feel like they made a good purchase, and I just think maybe a little bit more time between releases, or maybe you still release stuff at the same regularity at the Renegade cons, but you just don't throw in 7 new packs of stuff, right? Maybe you just announce 2 new packs. And you say, you know what? There's no reason we have to infuse 10 new squads and a bunch of uniques. We can infuse 1 or 2 squads at a time. And that way you give people time to save up and buy those new 2 packs. Maybe it's just 2 packs. Awesome. Great. Let's be excited about those. Now that extends how long it'll take to then, release units and whatnot. And I know that, your company's a business and trying to make money. So there's things to be said about what that means. And I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. But these are just my feelings. Okay? Because at the end of the day, these are my opinions. I'm on a soapbox. These are thoughts that I've had. Take them with a grain of salt, take them with what you will. Hopefully it means something, and maybe it can start a discussion. Maybe something will come of it, and maybe not. So anyway, take that for what you will. Let me know what you guys think. I've talked long enough. I need some water. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.